I accidentally saved a nobleman, who said I could make one wish to him, anything at all. Coincidentally, a famine struck, and the wish I made to him was a cartload of rice and grain. I used this cartload of rice and grain to save my husband's entire family, but he said I should have asked the nobleman for an official position for him instead, calling me short-sighted and ruining his great opportunity. For this, he starved me to death. After being reborn, when the nobleman asked me again, "What is your wish?" I quickly kowtowed. I begged the noble to take me away. "I am willing to divorce my husband." The noble agreed, and from then on, Towley village had one less woman starving to death, while the emperor gained a beloved adopted sister. This time, without any grain, how would he survive this famine? I'll wait and see. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. What wish do you have? The opulent Shwe Chongyu looked down at me kneeling on the ground, his gaze surprisingly gentle. This humble woman, I stammered in urgency, unsure how to respond, for this single answer would determine the course of my entire life. In my past life, for the sake of my husband's family and fearing Shwe Chongyu would deem me too greedy, I had asked for just one cartload of grain during this famine year when people were starving enough to gnaw on tree bark and grass roots. In these times, grain was as precious as gold. That single cartload could feed my husband's family and me for a whole year without hunger. If we saved some for seeds to plant next spring, we might even have grain year after year. Truly the best life one could hope for. At that time, Shwe Chongyu hesitated only slightly before agreeing to my request. As he left, he sighed and said, "What a pity." I didn't understand what he was pitying at the time. I thought a cartload of grain was more than enough until I later heard that this nobleman Shwe Chongyu was actually the current new emperor, that cruel and bloodthirsty ruler. What he could have given me would have far exceeded my imagination. So when I happily dragged that cart of grain back to my husband's home, what greeted me wasn't the family's praise, but my husband Song Yi's reproach and the entire household's insults. Song Yi scolded me, "You short-sighted fool. You could have asked for high-ranking positions and wealth for me, yet all you demanded was a cart of rice and grain." My mother-in-law cursed me, "You've ruined my son's bright future, why don't you just die?" My sister-in-law lashed out, "I could have had an official for a brother and married into a better family to become an official's wife. You've destroyed our entire family." Yet they all forgot I was the one who saved him, the one who brought back the rice and grain. Without me, they'd be staring at an empty rice jar right now, wailing helplessly in despair, because even the wild herbs and roots on the back mountain had been dug up, leaving them on the brink of starvation. To avenge my foolish choice, Song Yi and my mother-in-law joined forces to drag me into the woodshed and lock me up, denying me food no matter how desperately I pleaded for mercy. Their family happily feasted on the provisions I had brought home, then turned around and left me to starve to death, discarding my body in a ditch where fleeing refugees passing through the village boiled and shared my flesh. When neighbors asked about my whereabouts, wondering why they hadn't seen me, they lied that I had caught the eye of some noble and abandoned their poor household, sneaking away at night to seek my fortune elsewhere. Later, Song Yi even used half the grain he'd obtained by trading me to curry favor with the county magistrate, securing himself an easy government post. Their whole family moved joyfully to the county town, while I was left with not even bones to bury. Fortunately, I was reborn, and fortunately, the Shwe Chongyu before me was very patient. He didn't turn and leave because of my hesitation. He was waiting for me to make a choice. Seeing clarity gradually return to my eyes, he knew I had made up my mind. Shwe Chongyu asked once more, "What is your wish?" I lowered my head and kowtowed deeply to him. I begged the nobleman to take me away. I don't want to be trapped in this small village for the rest of my life. Hearing this, Shwe Chongyu suddenly laughed. He probably didn't expect someone as cautious as me to make such a bold request, the corners of his lips curling slightly. Suddenly intrigued, he said, "They say a woman should follow her husband. If I take you away, what will become of yours?" Without hesitation, I replied, "No need, I wish to divorce my husband." The onlookers standing around at a distance began to condemn me upon hearing this, for it has been said since ancient times that a woman should regard her husband as her heaven. To them, my act of abandoning my heaven was an unforgivable transgression. How heartless she is, willing to abandon her husband for wealth and status. Her husband's family treated her well. No wonder they say most women are ungrateful and heartless. Today we've witnessed it firsthand. Shameless. Her husband should divorce her, but they only dared to whisper about me, because Shwe Chongyu was here, and they didn't dare to be too presumptuous. After all, for someone of Shwe Chongyu's status, Killing a person was no different from squashing an ant. I turned a deaf ear to their hurtful words. What they said didn't matter. They couldn't decide my fate, but Shwe Chongyu, standing before me, could. Shwe Chongyu frowned slightly at my words. He asked me, "Are you sure you want to abandon everything and come with me, even if it means you'll bear a lifetime of infamy?" I nodded firmly. "I'm certain. As long as I can fill my stomach, what does it matter if they scold me? When they starve to death later, there'll be no one left to curse me." Upon hearing my response, Shwe Chongyu suddenly burst into laughter. As he personally helped me up, he said, "Elder sister is truly remarkable. Exactly, once they starve, they'll behave." Turning to an attendant beside him, he commanded, "Go inform the county magistrate that when we open the granaries for disaster relief today, none of those who insulted my elder sister shall receive a single grain of rice." The attendant hurried off to carry out the order. Among the crowd that had been pointing fingers at me earlier, both local villagers and refugees all now knelt on the ground, begging Shwe Chongyu for mercy. "Spare us, noble lord, we dare not do it again." In this famine-stricken era, being deliberately excluded when the government opens its granaries for relief means you're truly not far from starving to death. Shwe Chongyu looked at me, as if testing me. Shall we spare them? Was he leaving the decision to me? I knew his ruthless nature. He probably didn't want to hear me easily forgive those people. Besides, many among them were the very ones who had boiled my corpse in my previous life. Why should I show them mercy? I shook my head. "I leave it entirely to your discretion." Then Shwe Chongyu took me by the hand and led me away, heading to my husband's family to help me dissolve the marriage. "Madam, who is this?" Song Yi's eyes nearly popped out when he saw me alighting from Shwe Chongyu's carriage. Had I not appeared several years older than Shwe Chongyu with my hands covered in chilblains, looking utterly mismatched beside his extraordinary beauty and refined demeanor, he might have suspected I'd caught Shwe Chongyu's fancy and was being taken in as a concubine. "This noble lord has agreed to take me away. I've come to discuss our separation with you." I wasn't sure how to properly address the current emperor, since he hadn't revealed his identity yet. I decided to call him noble lord for now. "What, you want to separate from me?" Song Yi's face was full of disbelief. He had witnessed firsthand how well I'd treated him since our marriage. For him, I not only toiled in the fields every day, but also embroidered handkerchiefs in my spare time to sell at the market town, all to save up for his travel expenses to the capital for the imperial examinations. For him, I endured repeated mistreatment from my mother-in-law and sister-in-law without complaint. Even when he proposed taking a supportive second wife after high school, I agreed. How could someone as good-natured and devoted as me suddenly initiate a divorce? Yes, divorce. From now on, we'll each go our own way in marriage. Since I'm the one proposing it, as compensation, I won't hold you accountable for the dowry your family spent after I married into your family. Sign it. I signed my name on the divorce document personally drafted by Shwe Chongyu, then took it to Song Yi, thinking of leaving me after climbing to a higher branch. "Don't even dream of it." Song Yi reached out to tear up the divorce agreement. "This is gold-flecked paper from Yunxian Studio in the capital. Each sheet costs 5 taels of silver. Think carefully before you tear it. I doubt you can afford the compensation." Shwe Chongyu's words made Song Yi hesitate. Song Yi looked down. The paper indeed emitted scattered golden glimmers under the sunlight, appearing truly luxurious. He feared he genuinely couldn't afford to compensate for it. "If you agree to divorce your sister and let her leave with me, this ingot of gold will be yours," Shwe Chongyu said as he took a heavy pouch from his attendant, casually pulling out a piece and tossing it before Song Yi. Song Yi hesitated. This was an ingot of gold, enough to buy 5 dan of grain, yet to simply agree to divorce me. To watch me leave him and follow Shwe Chongyu to a better life, he couldn't bear it. Why should such good fortune never come his way? How could 1 ingot be enough? She's eaten 3 years' worth of our family's grain since marrying into our household. It's got to be at least 5 gold ingots. Before Song Yi could be persuaded, his old mother suddenly darted out from the room, hastily scooping up the gold from the ground and stuffing it into her bosom, her eyes gleaming with insatiable greed. "That's right, at least 5 gold ingots," Song Yi echoed as he came to his senses. When he married me, he'd only given my father a pound of pork. Now he could trade me for 5 gold ingots, use the leftover gold to marry a younger, prettier woman, and even buy a decent house. No loss at all. In that instant, he saw the light and stopped obsessing over my demand for a divorce, but I wasn't about to let him off so easily. Why should he, after ruining me so thoroughly in our past life, get to keep 5 gold ingots and continue living the good life in this one? In my desperation, I tugged at Shwe Chongyu's sleeve and pleaded, "Don't give it to them. They've treated me poorly all these years. After marriage, he only knew how to read and write. All the dirty and exhausting household chores fell on me. I toiled day and night. Every day before dawn, I had to attend to his mother's morning toilette. And at night I washed her feet. His spoiled sister, already grown, still demanded I feed her daily meals. The slightest dissatisfaction would earn me beatings or curses. They don't deserve those 5 gold ingots. After hearing this, Shwe Chongyu simply took out 4 more gold ingots and a gem-encrusted dagger from his purse, throwing them to the ground as he told the family, "For more can be added, but only if you let my sister vent her anger. You can hack each other. For every extra hole you get, you can get an extra gold ingot. 4 ingots mean 4 holes. You are a family. There should be no distinction between you. Anyone with a hole can have it." He truly was a tyrant. He could even come up with such a murderous and heart-wrenching idea. I instantly felt at ease. As soon as these words were spoken, the family immediately exchanged glances. Even though they were extremely malicious, they had never thought of killing each other. But Shwe Chongyu had little patience for them. "I'll give you 15 minutes to decide. If you can't make a choice, then I'll leave your sister with you. But I'll take all the gold, including the ingot already in your pocket." Shwe Chongyu had many attendants and guards with him. Whatever he said went, and what he took could be reclaimed. Whether they wanted this woman or 5 ingots of gold, they would surely make their choice soon. "My son, just bear with it a little." Mother Song raised her hand to pick up the dagger, ready to stab it through Song Yi's shoulder. "Mother, forgive me." No one expected Song Yi to act faster. He pulled a sharp iron hairpin from his bun and plunged it straight into his mother's lower back. When the blooded hairpin was yanked out, the spray painted his face crimson, making his expression appear utterly savage and cold-blooded. Mother Song clutched her wound as she collapsed to the ground, blood rapidly seeping through her fingers. "Your son is a scholar who must still strive for official honors in the future. He cannot bear any scars. I beg your forgiveness, Mother." As he spoke, Song Yi raised the hairpin again, aiming this time to stab another hole into her thigh. "Come on, then." Seeing him prepare to attack her once more, Mother Song trembled and closed her eyes. But the next moment, it was Song Yi's scream that rang out, "Ah!" Mother Song closed her eyes while quickly grabbing a handful of dust from the ground and throwing it at Song Yi. Then, taking advantage of his temporary blindness, she used the dagger she had picked up to stab directly into Song Yi's shoulder. A large stain of blood immediately seeped from his shoulder. She didn't intend to kill her son, thinking that with those 5 gold ingots, she could spare one later to treat his wounds. Her son wouldn't die. "Mother, you actually tricked me." Song Yi struggled to sit up, reaching out to grapple with his mother. Blind, he wildly swung the iron hairpin in his hand, stabbing toward her again and again. But Mother Song dodged swiftly each time, leaving him striking nothing but air. "Son, you struck first, don't blame me." Mother Song initially only wanted to defend herself. She kept retreating, but Song Yi advanced step by step, quickly forcing the retreating woman into a corner. "Mother, brother, how could you do this to her?" Just as Song Yi raised the iron hairpin again, a voice suddenly rang out. It was little sister Song. When she finally emerged from the inner room upon hearing the commotion, she was met with a horrifically bloody scene. Her own brother brandishing an iron hairpin, poised to strike their mother. She rushed forward, trying to push Song Yi away to save their mother. In that critical moment, Mother Song suddenly turned and thrust a dagger toward little sister Song. In her panic, she didn't aim deliberately. The blade plunged straight into the younger girl's chest. "That's the 3rd one. The 3rd hole. Those 5 gold ingots will soon be mine." Gripping the blood-dripping dagger, Mother Song's eyes were filled with mad greed. "Mother." Song Xiaomai looked at her mother in disbelief, then at the bone-deep wound on her chest. She couldn't understand why this was happening, but before she could figure it out, hearing her voice, Song Yi, whose eyes were blurred by sand and could only vaguely make out shadowy figures, saw Song Xiaomai severely wounded and collapsed. His first reaction wasn't to help his sister up, but to turn and lunge at her, stabbing fiercely at her shoulder with an iron hairpin. "I did it, I succeeded." As another hole appeared on Song Xiaomai's shoulder, Song Yi didn't spare a glance at his dying sister, his eyes devoid of even a trace of remorse. He threw the iron hairpin from his hand and turned to pick up the gold ingots on the ground, but was forcefully pushed away by Mother Song. "Mine, all these gold pieces are mine." After pushing him down, Mother Song quickly reached out to pick up the gold pieces, then stuffed them all into her bosom one by one. "Mother, I get a share of the gold too." Song Yi pounced on Mother Song, fighting over it. They disregarded their injuries for the 5 gold ingots, their struggle incredibly fierce. They completely forgot about the severely injured little sister Song beside them. If she had received medical attention promptly, little sister Song might have had a chance to survive. Mother, brother, why? As Song Xiaomai closed her eyes, they were filled with unwillingness. She couldn't understand why this was happening, why her most beloved brother and her own mother would want her dead, when she had done nothing wrong. By the time the Song mother and son had finished dividing the gold, they finally remembered Song Xiaomai. When they turned to look, her body had already gone cold. Mother Song collapsed to the ground, wailing loudly, "My daughter, I've wronged you." Song Yi remained silent as he signed his name on the divorce papers, then said to me quietly, "Leave, from now on, we have no ties whatsoever." At this moment, I felt as if a great weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I had finally escaped that den of wolves and tigers, that family. Xue Chengyu helped me into the carriage, which set off toward the town. The interior was lavishly decorated, with plush cushions, an incense burner emitting wisps of fragrant smoke, and exquisitely arranged pastries on a small chest. Xue Chengyu said that since I had saved him, I was now his elder sister, and everything he possessed would be shared with me from now on. Elder sister, are you happy? Amid the curling smoke, Xue Chengyu tilted his head to look at me, the corners of his lips lifting slightly. I'm happy, I said bitterly, thinking of my family from my past life who had starved me to death due to their insatiable greed. I should be happy about their current plight, but I couldn't bring myself to feel joy. They were once my beloved family, yet one by one, they abandoned me, hurt me, and even caused my death. This isn't enough. I'll make sure elder sister is even happier. Xue Chengyu seemed to have noticed my hatred for the Song family. He turned to the attendants outside and said, "Spread word of today's events at the Song household. Let everyone see the true face of this so-called scholar. A scholar who preaches benevolence and morality, yet divorces his wife and murders his mother and sister for 5 ingots of gold. What a farce." Once this scandal spreads, the entire Song Yi family will be branded with the infamy of kinslaying. Song Yi's path to imperial examinations will be completely severed, and scholars across the land will scorn his actions. This is what it truly means to destroy someone both physically and spiritually. At this moment, I'm immensely grateful that I saved Xue Chengyu. I am his benefactor, not his enemy, for his methods of harming others are far more terrifying than Song Yi's. The mere thought sends a chill down my spine. I imagine that in the future, my days by his side will be like walking on thin ice. Yet, Xue Chengyu treats me surprisingly well. He claims to be the current emperor but forbids me from addressing him as Your Majesty. He said he had nearly killed all his siblings, and that I was older than him and had once saved his life. He said that in all these years, he had never slept well until that night when we were being chased by rebels, and I hid him in a pile of dry grass in a cave, letting him rest his head on my arm. He said that was the most peaceful night he had ever slept. He also said that from then on, I would be his sworn sister, and he asked me to call him Chengyu, promising me unparalleled honor. Only then did I realize how foolish I had been in my past life. I had missed the chance to rise to the top in a single step. But what surprised me even more was that Xue Chengyu was willing to stay an extra night in this remote county town, just for me. He said to me, "Elder sister, wait quietly through the night. Bid your former good sisters a proper farewell. By tomorrow morning, good news will surely come." I didn't quite understand, with the Song family already in such a state, what good news could possibly arrive, but I truly did want to say goodbye to the sisters who had once been close to me. He specially reserved a private room at the tavern for me to bid farewell to my sisters. We talked late into the night before they reluctantly took their leave. At dawn, just before departure, someone came to report, something happened at the Song family last night. Some refugees broke into their house, not only stealing those 5 gold ingots but also taking all the valuable items in the house. Xue Chengyu asked him, "How are the mother and child now?" The man replied, "They're penniless, injured, and waiting to die in their room." After one night, the Song family had been turned upside down. The joy they felt yesterday upon receiving 5 gold ingots was matched only by their wretched state today. I was startled in my heart. I had actually been robbed. Xue Chengyu had me wait overnight, probably having anticipated this outcome long ago. He truly leaves nothing to chance. While I marveled at his cunning, I also silently reminded myself to be cautious around him from now on, careful not to provoke him. Hearing this, Xue Chengyu's expression relaxed, and he asked me with a smile, "Are you happy, sister?" I nodded, carefully choosing my words. "Happier than yesterday. That pack of wolves and tigers deserved such an ending after a whole night. I had long since let go of them in my heart, regarding them as enemies. Naturally, I was pleased to see them suffer." Xue Chengyu held my hand, his eyes sparkling. If elder sister is happy, then I am happy. Come back to the capital with me, perhaps because I had once saved his life. Shwe Chongyu was very attached to me. During our journey, he would ride in the same carriage with me during the day. He would occasionally review memorials. But most of the time he was either dozing by the window or drinking wine. At times, he didn't seem like an emperor at all, too free-spirited and careless, never bothering to dress properly. When irritated, he would casually toss his outer robe into a corner and leave it there. It was common for him to leave his robe open in front of me, but when he said he treated me like an elder sister, he meant it, though unrestrained and casual around me. He never laid a hand on me or treated me like a servant despite my humble origins. My daily life had also changed drastically. I now wore silk gowns from Shu province, a tribute to the court, and adorned my hair with gold hairpins and silk flowers he had ordered to be collected for me. My once rough hands had gradually become fair and smooth from daily soaking in milk. Not just my hands, my entire being was undergoing rapid changes. My cheeks were no longer weathered but adorned with delicate makeup, and my gaunt figure gradually filled out from better meals. Sometimes when I looked in the bronze mirror, even I found the reflection unfamiliar. It seemed I grew more beautiful with each passing day, becoming more like those noble ladies raised in wealthy households. Shwe Chongyu noticed this too and took pride in it. Elder sister, I won't make you regret coming with me. These days, every night he would climb into my bed. Doing nothing but lying obediently beside me with his head on my arm, he said only by my side could he sleep soundly through the night. I gradually grew accustomed to sharing a bed with him, because as long as he slept well, his mood would improve the next day, and consequently, the attendants' lives would become much easier. Some attendants remarked that it had been a long time since they'd seen His Majesty execute anyone, yet as the carriage approached the capital, Shwe Chongyu suddenly refused to see me one night. He locked himself in the inn's room, saying he would sleep alone that evening. I asked the attendant by his side, "What's wrong with him?" The attendant whispered to me nervously, "His Majesty seems to have had another fit of madness. When he's like this, he slashes at anyone he sees. Today, fearing he might frighten you, he ordered his men to tie him up. He should be fine by tomorrow." The attendant urged me to stay away, lest I be frightened by the screams coming from his room. Seeing the attendants unconsciously retreating to a distance, for my own safety, I should have left. But remembering how kind he had been to me, how he called me elder sister and gave me warmth like I'd never known before, I couldn't bear to abandon him in his darkest hour. While everyone else kept their distance, I quietly approached the door. I didn't rashly push the door open, but stood waiting outside. From within came intermittent groans and roars of pain. I don't know how much time had passed when thud, that was the sound of Shwe Chongyu rolling off the bed, followed by the clattering of objects crashing to the floor in the room. He seemed to have accidentally knocked over a table, shattering a matching tea set. I wondered if the shards might have cut him. Fearing he might hurt himself, I didn't hesitate. I pushed the door open and rushed in. Chongyu, the room was pitch black. So dark I couldn't see my own hand in front of my face. Fortunately, I was carrying an oil lamp. I used it to light the candle on the windowsill. In the dim candlelight, I could just make out a figure curled up in the corner, holding the candle closer. I saw his face was tangled with disheveled hair, his eyes bloodshot and terrifying, his mouth continuously screaming, "Die, die, all of you, die." His hands were already marked with long red welts from the hemp rope, and his left cheek had been sliced open by a shard of porcelain. The man who once carried himself as proudly as a peacock before me now looked utterly pitiful. I quickly helped him up. "Chongyu, Shwe Chongyu, are you all right?" Shwe Chongyu seemed to no longer recognize me. His eyes were unfocused, and he kept repeating the same phrase, "Die, all of you, die." It appeared he harbored intense hatred toward someone and was consumed by deep obsession, but I wasn't afraid. I helped him lie back on the bed and called for someone to bring water. They didn't dare enter, so they left the basin by the door. I fetched the basin and wiped his face, applied medicine, and held his trembling body, soothing him over and over. "Chongyu, don't be afraid, your sister is here, I'll always be here." When his body relaxed slightly, I untied all the ropes and let him rest his head on my arm as usual, coaxing him to sleep. "Sleep now, when you wake up, everything will be over." Shwe Chongyu didn't speak, but when he looked up at me, tears suddenly streamed from the corners of his eyes. He gazed at me quietly for a long time before calling out in a hoarse voice, "Sister, you shouldn't have come in." I helped him adjust the slipping brocade quilt. "I thought you needed me, so I came. If you don't, sister will go to the next room right away." Perhaps he didn't want me to witness him in such an embarrassing state of illness. I could understand that. Just as I was about to get up, Shwe Chongyu called out to me again, "Sister, don't go, stay with me." I quickly took off my shoes and climbed onto the bed, letting him rest his head on my arm as I soothed him over and over. "Sister won't leave, sister will stay with you always, now sleep." I coaxed him as if he were a child. When I woke up the next morning, Shwe Chongyu was already sitting at the table, holding a cup of hot tea. Seeing me awake, he smiled at me and said, "Sister, I'm fine now." Later, a servant secretly told me that whenever Shwe Chongyu had an episode, if he was tied up, he would usually injure himself all over, even banging his head against the wall until he was covered in blood and fainted on the ground. If he wasn't restrained, he would wield a sword and kill anyone he saw until he was tired of killing, and only then would he stop. Now he can easily get through his episodes. And it's all thanks to me. After this, the attendants around him treated me with even greater respect, truly regarding me as a proper master. Shwe Chongyu also grew closer to me. No matter what good things he obtained, he would share them with me, saying that all the good things should go to his elder sister. When we returned to the capital, he was no longer just my younger brother, he was the emperor of the capital, the emperor of this land. I had thought the bond between us would be constrained or changed, that at the very least, given my lowly origins, I could no longer be his elder sister according to palace rules. But who is Shwe Chongyu? He's a tyrant who kills at the slightest provocation, who dares question his decisions. He granted me the title of Princess of Anqing, made me his adoptive elder sister, bestowed upon me a mansion and fiefdom, granting me wealth beyond my wildest dreams. Every night, whether or not he summoned concubines to his bedchamber, he would sleep beside me, simply resting his head on my arm, listening to my steady heartbeat. This was when he felt most comfortable and relaxed. He said that only by my side could he sleep soundly through the night without dreams. When he slept well, fewer people died in both the imperial court and the harem. The imperial concubines in the palace, seeing this, treated me with great respect, addressing me as princess at every turn. Occasionally, when a palace servant made a mistake and offended him, they would plead with me, hoping I could intercede on their behalf. Everyone believed the emperor placed considerable weight on my words. Gradually, I established my footing in the palace, and Shwe Chongyu, now well rested, had fewer and fewer episodes of his illness. Just as the imperial physician declared he was on the verge of full recovery, I was kidnapped. Someone did not wish for Shwe Chongyu to regain his health. When the Prince of Ju rebelled, he took me as a hostage. "Shwe Chongyu, isn't this peasant woman precious to you? Then I'll make her die right before your eyes." The Prince of Ju raised a dagger, pressing it against my neck. After all these years, he had finally found Shwe Chongyu's weakness. "Return my sister to me, and I might leave your corpse intact. If my sister dies, I'll have every last one of you buried with her." Shwe Chongyu shook his head as he raised his longbow, aiming it straight at the Prince of Ju's skull. He had always detested being threatened, and the crimson veins spreading across his eyes signaled the onset of his impending episode. With those words, Shwe Chongyu had the Prince of Ju's entire family, all 132 members, dragged forward. Then, with a single kick, he sent the prince's elderly mother sprawling to the ground, blood gushing from her mouth. "Let's start with your mother, your youngest child is next." Shwe Chongyu commanded his men to throw punches at the Ju prince's young son. When it comes to madness, who could outmatch Shwe Chongyu? He's the kind of madman who'd stab even himself when enraged. He might not care for intact tiles, but he certainly revels in shattered jade, taking perverse pleasure in watching others succumb to utter despair. "Mother, my son." The Ju prince watched helplessly as his elderly mother collapsed in agony before his eyes. While his wailing child endured the beating, his hand trembled so violently he nearly dropped the dagger. Seizing the moment of his panic, I immediately rammed my head hard into his chin, smashing his mouth full of blood and knocking out several of his teeth. Just as he, furious and humiliated, was about to point the dagger at me again, Shwe Chongyu drew his bow and released an arrow with a whoosh, striking the King of Ju right between the eyebrows. The King of Ju, his eyes wide with rage, fell to the ground with a thud. The rebel soldiers he had brought with him, no longer daring to step forward and seize me, all knelt down and begged for mercy. "Those who harmed my sister shall all be put to death." Shwe Chongyu frowned deeply as he looked at the shallow cut on my neck. Countless heads fell instantly, blood splattering everywhere. I had seen him kill before, but never such a gruesome scene. Unable to bear it, I bent over and retched violently, "Elder sister." Shwe Chongyu rushed to support me, but I fainted straight into his arms from sheer terror. When I awoke, I was lying beneath warm brocade quilts. The palace maid said the imperial consort had just been beheaded, and her father and brothers were also convicted for it. It was she who had me kidnapped and sent to King Ju as a hostage, all because she was jealous that Shwe Chongyu treated me so well, never speaking harshly to me, fearing I might one day become a concubine and her enemy. But she worried too much. I had no such intentions, nor did Shwe Chongyu. He was just too lonely, too desperate for family. Sister, are you all right? Feeling dizzy, seeing me awake, Shwe Chongyu rushed over immediately and held me tightly in his arms. Chongyu, I'm fine. Seeing him trembling with fear, I quietly let him hold me, afraid that in his extreme panic, he might have another episode. When he finally calmed down, he rested his head on my arm and told me a story. He said he once had an elder sister, the eldest princess of the palace. The late emperor had originally intended to send him as a hostage to a neighboring country, but the princess, out of love for him, volunteered to go in his place only to never return. I cautiously asked him, what happened to the princess? He said, she was abducted by bandits on the way and has been missing ever since. He continued, later, the one sent as a hostage became me. I endured inhuman torment in the neighboring country, became a plaything for the nobility, was forced to eat spoiled food, fell ill, and grew to wish death upon everyone until I met you. Your wrist bears the same birthmark as my elder sister. You're about her age and look strikingly similar to her. The place where she disappeared happens to be the very county where you once lived. I suspect you might be my sister, that you've simply forgotten me. That's why I asked you to make a wish. It was a test. I did indeed lose a portion of my memories, but I never thought much of it. Who would have imagined that my true identity might actually be his elder sister? I lost a segment of my memory. Ever since I can remember, I've lived in that village, and my parents are already dead. In other words, there's no way to verify, no one can trace my origins, and I can't prove whether I'm the princess or not. That doesn't matter. If I say you are, then you are. Shwe Chongyu gazed at me with deep affection as he spoke. He told me so much more, that I was his only family, that from now on I could do whatever I wished, that he would bear the weight of the sky if it fell, that I could have anything I desired. I suddenly asked him a question. What if, when you asked me about my wish back then, my answer had been to ask for a cartload of provisions and stay there? What would you have done? Only then did I realize how foolish my choice in my past life had been. For a man, I had actually given up the wealth and honor that were rightfully mine, and my only family. Probably I would have left. I don't think my elder sister is that foolish, he said. Indeed, he had left in his past life. Now I am extremely grateful for the choice I made in this lifetime. 5 years later, I passed by that small town again and took the opportunity to visit my former sisters. This time, I rode in a comfortable carriage, escorted by soldiers, and was attended by a bevy of beautiful maids. When I alighted, every gesture of mine bore the air of a princess. The sisters envied my good fortune, that I could become a princess. Yet their entire lives had been predetermined from birth, obedient to their fathers at home, submissive to their husbands after marriage, and dependent on their sons in widowhood. Like puppets, they were manipulated their whole lives, with the slightest misstep inviting beatings and scoldings. I should have been the same, but the appearance of Shwe Chongyu changed my original life. When parting with them, I suddenly conceived the idea of establishing a women's academy, allowing women everywhere to read and write. No longer living along predetermined paths, let them also have the opportunity to encounter more people, more things, and possess more choices. To my surprise, as I was preparing to leave the county town, someone crawled in front of my carriage on the street, claiming to be my husband. I lifted the curtain to see the utterly haggard Song Yi. Somehow he hadn't starved to death yet. His life was stubbornly long. When Song Yi saw me, he knew he was in the wrong. He didn't dare look up, only pleading desperately, "Princess, for the sake of our past bond, take me away. I'll be your horse groom. If you're displeased, you can whip me anytime." After sending someone to investigate, I learned Song Yi's elderly mother had died during the famine years. He'd survived by selling his ancestral home, but his old wounds never fully healed. To make matters worse, he'd recently racked up gambling debts. When creditors saw he couldn't repay, they broke both his legs. Now he could only crawl and beg. My appearance was his last lifeline. Now that I'm a princess, just a hint of favor slipping through my fingers would be more than enough for him to enjoy endlessly. That's why he dared to stop my carriage. It's a pity there's no affection left between us, only hatred. I pointed at the handsome young man massaging my shoulders and legs. At the very least, my stable boy must be of this caliber. You're not worthy. With that, I let the carriage curtain fall, and the horses sped away, leaving him choking on nothing but dust. He had offended me publicly. Though he was perfectly fine before, He dropped dead the very night I left, perhaps by human hands, or perhaps his long overdue retribution had finally arrived. For 40 years, I have remained unchanged, still Shwe Chongyu's most favored elder sister. In these 40 years, I bore no children but kept many handsome young lovers, each exceptionally good-looking. My days were nothing short of decadent and carefree, yet when common folk speak of me, they prefer discussing my founding of girls' schools over my private affairs. Now women can also attend school, distinguish right from wrong, and even serve as officials in court. Marriage is no longer their only path. The end.